The NFC East has a talented crop of quarterbacks, and we're going to rank them and tell you why they are some of the best in the NFL.
Welcome to the Scouting Room Podcast with Dame and Dan. If you love NFL football, college football, and the NFL Draft, this podcast is for you. Touchdown! Dame and Dan will provide real analysis featuring analytics and film to back up their takes. Please sit down, grab your drink, and let's scout.
Welcome back to the Scouting Room NFL podcast with Dame and Dan. I'm Dame. I am a NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report and the host of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. That's my guy, Dan. He is an NFL analyst with RGR Football. And guys, thank you for tapping in with your boys here. We have a fun one. Last week, we broke down the quarterbacks in the NFC South, which most will believe and call the weakest division in football. We ranked them. We talked about their strengths and weaknesses. Guess what? Guys, we're doing the exact same thing, but with much better quarterback play in the NFC East. And then we're going to start, we got the Giants, the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Commanders. But let's start with those Giants, those New York football Giants. And they have kind of a not a quartet, but a triplet at quarterback right now, and heading into training camp. And their guy that's projected to be the starter is none other than Mr. Unlimited. What's he called himself? Unlimited or Limitless? I think it's Unlimited.
Yeah, Mr. Unlimitless. Unlimited. You just got
Mr. Unlimited. Broncos country. Let's ride. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is their projected starting quarterback for the 25 season as of right now. Dan, I know I wanted to preface that as of right now, because we've seen this story before. Remember the Tyrod Taylor thing in Cleveland with Baker Mayfield? We've seen this, I think Tyrod with Justin Herbert, I think it was. We've seen it before. Yeah. And Russell Wilson's coming off a season last year. He played 11 games for the Pittsburgh Steelers, completed 63.7% of his passes, 16 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, threw for 2,482 yards. He was sacked 33 times, Dan. So when you turn on the tape and watch Russell Wilson, what are some of the good things that he's going to bring to this offense? And then there was a question that somebody asked about Malik Neighbors when we did the episode about Malik about a month or so ago about Russell Wilson. What did you like on tape from Russell Wilson, and does he mesh well with the talent that is Malik Neighbors?
Yeah, so we saw last year with specifically to Malik Neighbors, the deep ball be kind of an issue, right? They were just throwing it up. Daniel Jones didn't really care where the ball was going and how it was getting there. He was just targeting Malik and he was throwing it, chucking it. A lot of those weren't catchable footballs. They weren't on target. We know one thing about Russell Wilson unequivocally is that he's going to want to throw the ball down the field and he's going to want to create chunk plays. He still has the moon ball. He wants, exactly, right? Even on the chart, it says the moon ball. What you'll be able to see what he wants to do. The reason we call it that is because his has some of the most in-depth arc on it. He gets it to that really high point. That arm point, the launch angle, all of it for Russell Wilson is one of the most, I believe, structurally and aesthetically pleasing deep balls I've ever watched.
Absolutely.
Like ever. And it's really fun to watch that happen. And we know that's what he wants to do. A lot of times to his own detriment. If we talk a little bit about how he's going to command, he's going to come in, he's going to command respect to the offense. He's going to be able to call things out the line of scrimmage. He's seen a lot of football. He knows a lot about the defenses that are coming at him. Unfortunately, he's unable to really access some of the make you miss and get out in space stuff that he was able to do last few seasons ago. But last year, towards the end of the Pittsburgh Steelers season, he started to get back to that a little bit. You go back to the game against the Chiefs where they were like, look, we know you want to throw the ball down the field, but we're not going to let you do that. We are going to force you to throw the football underneath or make plays with your legs. And I think he did a good job of extending plays and making plays outside of structure, outside of the pocket. So I think that if he can continue to do that, you're going to find a little bit more post-route, post-play success between him and Malik Neighbors if they can get on that same page, which I think Malik is very good at doing. He's very good at identifying space outside of the route structure itself. He can get in there, get out of there. And so I think that connection is going to be important, not only for Malik, but for Russell Wilson as well. But
No, 100%.
honestly, like the structure of the Steelers offense, they did kind of force him, much like the Denver Broncos did. They try to force him to not hold the football, get the ball out quickly, throw it to this player here. We want 1 or 2 reads and then you check it down. Like they were trying to force Russell Wilson to not be what he is. Because if we talk about how he was versus pressure last season, it's not good. It's really not good. The time to throw, 3.8 seconds. That is near 4 seconds. There's only, I think, one other quarterback in the NFL that had a higher on some of those. I think it was, in terms of like just under pressure, I think it was Lamar Jackson, because Lamar Jackson can do other things that a lot of other quarterbacks can't do. So he can get out and escape. Russell Wilson can't do that anymore. So if you're sitting back there holding the football for nearly 4 seconds under pressure, you're going to have some problems. And we saw that, to the tune of only 560 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 picks. It didn't work out for him. And we have to remember, different offenses, different coordinators. He's going to 3 different offenses in 3 different seasons, 3 different offensive lines. And I think the big thing here is that the New York Giants offensive line is not built to protect quarterbacks right now. It's just not. And that's been a big problem for them, specifically. As bad as Daniel Jones is, okay, I think that he could have been more successful if the offensive line had been good. It's just not. It never has been good under when he was the quarterback. So Russell Wilson's coming into an offensive line that is going to have to play much better for him, because he needs to win from the pocket and he needs to be able to get the ball out quickly. And if he's under pressure, he's going to try to make things happen that he knows that he can't do. So it's like they're going to have to try to prevent him from being what he was 5-6 years ago with the Seahawks that he still thinks he can get to. The problem with Russell Wilson is that in his head, he is 2019, 2020 Russell Wilson. That's just not it anymore. It is 2025, my guy, and things are different. The offensive line's worse. So I do think that there are some parts of the field that he's going to be able to access with Malik Neighbors. If that deep ball connection between him and Russell Wilson can get off the ground, I think that there's a reasonable expectation that they can get a run game with the play action that allows them to access those deeper parts of the field and maybe take some of those problems out of Russell Wilson's hands.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And you look at what he did last year in terms of Russell Wilson on short throws, under 10 air yards. He completed 67% of his passes, averaged 5.5 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Right, wasn't sacked on those throws. Thank God. Right, you're throwing it quick, so you're getting it out. And I think for the Giants, and you remember the Giants, they are a team that drafted Cam Scatterbull in the 4th round. They drafted Tyrone Tracy, I think 5th round in last year's draft, the 2024 NFL draft, and he was a good running back for him, trying to replace Saquon Barkley. Even the combination of those guys aren't going to replace who Saquon is, but they averaged, I think, 105 rush yards a game, and that was with Daniel Jones and then I think Drew Lock and Tommy Colcuts at quarterback, or whatever they had, of that revolving door of quarterbacks they had going on. Man, I look at it from this aspect. If Brian Daboll, who does want to play a balanced game, if he can get that run game going, allow Russell Wilson to get settled into games, now you get a competent, consistent, and effective downhill or just rushing attack, period. That's going to open up the quick game, right? So now you get the RPO stuff. You get the quick slants, the glance route to a Malik Neighbors, to a Wan'Dale Robinson. Brought back Darius Slayton, who was a big playmaker for them as well. Maybe get some Theo Johnson, his second year, the big athletic tight end, who's a really good blocker out of Penn State, which is an unpolished, unrefined receiving option coming out of Penn State and everything. You get him going. But then once you get the run game going, you get that, like, this is where I want to see. We all watched Tom Brady, and we watched him when he needed to go down the field. It was set you up with all of the underneath just Ginsu-like cuts, to where now you want to play too high, but you can't, because we're using the quick passing game as an extension of the run, and because Julian Edelman is getting 5-6 yards a pop per pass, and Welker and Amendola and Troy Brown and Deion Branch and those guys, then we hit you with a big play up the seam to Rob Gronkowski. We hit you with Aaron Hernandez. When we got Randy Moss, we're hitting you for 60. Him and Dante Stallworth, those type of things. And I think that's where I look at Russell Wilson. It's like, all right, if they give you that opportunity with the run game, the quick passing attack, now you start to get the numbers, and we move those levers, right? Now we got single high, and now you get that isolated one-on-one, not just to Malik Neighbors, but also to Darius Slayton, who takes the top off the defense. That's going to be the thing. Between the numbers is going to be, and it's always been an issue for Russ. And it's not I don't want to throw there. It's kind of a visual thing. So it's like, for those who we talked about at the end of the last episode, it's College Football 26, the football game, right? One of the new features is they added like a visual effects for shorter quarterbacks. Because when you watch real football, you see shorter quarterbacks struggle to find throwing lanes in condensed pockets. So Russell Wilson has never really been a drill the deep in cut, the middle of the field throws consistently, because he doesn't always see those throwing lanes. So he prefers the downfield throws. Same thing with Kyler Murray. Only difference is Kyler Murray is more helter-skelter, so he'll find the lane. You know what I mean? He'll find it because he's going to do everything he can to get, create havoc in the pocket. But yeah, Bryce Young, same thing. We talked about the intermediate throws with Bryce Young last week. He was terrible on those, right? Like, you got to get better at those. Russell Wilson, if Brian Daboll wants to get those, that 12, 15-yard deep in cut, that deep dig to a Malik Neighbors, I don't know if Russell Wilson is going to be able to consistently hit that. And that's when it comes up to the conversation now, Dan. Jameis Winston. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. If you don't want to play Jackson Dart, and talk to most NFL scouts, they felt like Dart was a guy that needed to sit in his rookie year. And I agreed. Coming out of that Mickey Mouse offense, in terms of like the stuff that Lane Kiffin allowed and helped him see, you're not getting in the NFL. So if you really plan to sit Dart as a rookie, I'm fine with that. Redshirt him. I'm cool, right? It should, to me, and you tell me how you feel, it should be a little bit of a battle between Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. We watched Jameis Winston take over that Cleveland Browns offense, and there was a receiver on there that Russell Wilson also had during his time at Denver that he couldn't get the ball to, Jerry Jeudy. When Jameis Winston took over at quarterback, Jerry Jeudy took off. Because Jameis Winston can make every single throw. There's no visual issues. He can hit the deep, the short, intermediate, between the numbers, outside, whatever. He might give you, he's going to give you some interceptions, right? He talked about it. I got to go to church and get prayed over for these pick six demons I'm dealing with, right? Like, he talked about that. I don't know if it's happening. You might need some holy water. We'll see. But nonetheless, like, I think there should be a competition between him and Russ, and not just hand the job to Russ. Because at the end of the day, I could see a situation where Malik Neighbors is getting pissed off because he's not getting. It's not the target share. We talk about this on this pod. It's not the target share, man. It's the quality of target. I don't know if I trust Russ to consistently give Malik Neighbors high quality targets at every level of the field, every area of the field.
It's funny you mentioned that, because when we look at Russell Wilson's target attempts last year, he had 249 attempts from 0 to 10 air yards, right? So you have those underneath routes. And then from intermediate 10 to 19, he had 43 attempts total. That's it. And we know those intermediate targets are typically the ones over the middle of the field. And then even deep, he only had 44 attempts. Those were all down outside the numbers too. Typically that's where he's attacking. So, and he added 0 EPA on any of the short targets, negative 36.7 EPA. Everything else, the intermediate, plus 32.7, plus 32.7 deep down the field. He could not execute the football into space, and that becomes more of an issue of ball placement. Your accuracy underneath, fine. He's going to get you the football. He's not going to lead you very well into space, and that's part of the big issue right there, and why Malik Neighbors is going to have to find a way to work with him if he's going to be the starter, because Russell's going to throw it to you. You need to tell him, no, you need to throw it in front of me. I'm explosive. I'm fast. I can go get that. I can extend my hand, extend my frame, and go get that and then run into space. That is where the EPA gets added, because your quarterback is leading those receivers into yards after catch opportunities. And we know Malik Neighbors is already one of the most explosive, intermediate, short, and deep players in this NFL right now. Second-year player. So Russell Wilson's going to have to be able to get on that page. And I agree. It's got to be a competition. They have to earn. this job, whether it's Jameis Winston or it's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's been given everything. He's been given the starting position at the Denver Broncos the last 2 seasons. And honestly, it doesn't work for some of these older guys that walk into a position that they've been given. And even with the Steelers last year, once he got healthy, it was given back to him.
Yep.
Justin Fields didn't lose that Russell Wilson was given the job, and I don't agree with that style of it. So,
not to cut you off, he lived a lot on those like crazy catches from George Pickens, and like you can't. And I remember telling somebody on my timeline that last year when he came in, and it was a hot start, and he's tossing it down the field and creating all the explosives. I said, you're not going to live like this. You got to be able to hit the baseball terms, and I'm not even a baseball guy, but I know certain terms from the sport: singles, doubles, triples, home runs. You're not like you can't live off triples and home runs.
Yeah.
You got to get the singles to get somebody on base, right? You got to do it. That's how you get your earn runs or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to do that. Like, and I think that's the issue I have with Russ is that I don't know if he's going to hit enough singles to be able to get guys in position so that you can get the earned run, so you can get the points on the board. But you're talking about putting points on the board. Then let's transition to a guy that, well, his team won the Super Bowl, and they were able to put points on the board, and that was Jalen Hurts. And he is a very divisive quarterback when you have debates about him, things of that nature. A good player, man. Good quarterback coming off a season last year. Again, Super Bowl run. They added the necessary pieces in the draft. We talked about Quignon and Cooper DeJean in past episodes. And if you haven't checked those out, go to the archives and check those out. But, last year, Jalen Hurts accounted for, he threw the ball 361 attempts. He completed 68.7% of his passes, a completion percentage over expectation of plus 6.6%. His EPA plus 52, right? EPA per dropback plus 0.1. So he was good last year when he did throw the ball. I think it was a passer rating of 103.7, 2,903 passing yards, 18 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the season. But of course, that it's not the full story when you look at Jalen Hurts. He's a rusher as well, 150 carries, 630 yards, 14 rushing touchdowns. And we know that this is a guy that, especially with the tush push and the brotherly shove, whatever name you want to call it, like he is the catalyst to it with his, huge legs and the 600-pound squat in the leg drive that he brings to the table. And then watching him, again, he's a good quarterback. And I say this, like, I want Eagles fans to understand. I like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a quarterback that what he did in the Super Bowl, outstanding, right? He was, and it was a simple fact of understanding Steve Spagnuolo is not about to allow Saquon to run this game. He's not going to let the run game dictate the terms. So now when you do have the true drop back set and they're like, the run game's ineffective and not explosive, what can you do? And he did a good job, like dotting every I and crossing every T in that game. Accuracy, ball placement, decision-making, everything. The throw down the field, I think it may have been second quarter, to A.J. Brown or whatever quarter it was, with a dot. Like, he made plays. And when you look at just on film and some of the things that we really like about him, targeting outside the numbers. And it's one of the things coming, I guess you could say, coming out of Alabama and Oklahoma, because he transferred, he was always good throwing down the field outside the numbers, right? He's very comfortable. And when he came, remember when he came in for Carson Wentz? And I'll never forget, because I think it was a game against the Cardinals. So they should have won that game. They almost won the game, but Kyle ended up leading them back, stuff like that. He actually was good, just throwing outside the numbers, down the field, targeting those deep hitches, curls, comebacks, things like that. And then when it came down to the vertical shots, he was able to take those, hit those. Of course, again, the rushing upside, not just the brotherly shove, not just the tush push. This is a guy that if you play man-to-man coverage, and it's not like he's not Lamar Jackson or Jayden Daniels in terms of athleticism and straight line speed, right? He's not the elusive creative runner. He's more of a power runner, but he's so patient, like a running back, Dan, that he finds the lanes. So like him dropping back, he sits, he surveys the field, identifies the coverage. Okay, it's man. There's nobody to account for me, and my guys are kind of locked right now. He waits and he sees part of the Red Sea. Oh, I see a crease, and then he hits it. And then it's the fact of now your linebacker and your safety or whoever is dealing with him at full speed at 220, 30 pounds, whatever he is. He's listed at 218. I don't believe it. I believe he's 240, but nonetheless, you know what I mean? He runs like he's 240. But you see that, right? He's now he puts you in a very precarious position because he's going to run through you and everything. So I think those are the things that rushing upside, the downfield ability that he brings to the offense, but also just improved pocket presence. And that's what that goes into the rushing upside, is that he's fine and cool, calm, and collected, like in the pocket, being able in terms of moving in the pocket, like feeling the pressure for the most part, and then being able to find his running lanes, find his throwing lanes, different things of that nature. And again, he was a catalyst in that Super Bowl. They don't win the Super Bowl without him. They don't do they get to the Super Bowl without Saquon Barkley and everything? And he had a lower volume, I would say, as a passer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Compared to everybody else that's up there and everything. So, like, when people put on Twitter, like him or Josh Allen, I'm like, guys, I'm still taking Josh Allen. You know what I mean? I'm still taking Lamar Jackson. I'm still taking Mahomes. And I'm still taking those guys, but I still love Jalen Hurts and what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I'm going to preface everything I say by saying that Jalen Hurts is one of the best big game quarterbacks in the NFL. Bar none. Every time you watch him in a big game, he makes the right decisions. Even in the Super Bowl they lost, it wasn't because Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was fantastic. He was, and again, when you look at what Steve Spagnuolo did in those games, they took the run game away. They wanted to take the run game away and force Jalen Hurts to beat them. He did. He did exactly that. So I tip my hat to Jalen Hurts. Every time he's in a big game, he finds a way to make the right decision. And we also have to remember that offensive line was amazing. It was amazing. And the reason I'm pointing at the offensive line is because last season he had 361 attempts in 15 games. Yes, he missed a couple of games last season. But if we go back to the last time he played 15 games, which was 2022, he had 460 attempts. So we understand that there was a clear and obvious decision made about who was going to be the focal point of the offense, and it was Saquon Barkley. You brought in Saquon, you made the offensive line what it was, and again, it's been great for a very long time, and they wanted the run game to be the focal point of the offense. But when it needed to be on Jalen Hurts' shoulders, he could do that. 18 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He made very good decisions for the most part last year. He was willing to accept the role that was given to him. Now, we know he's a good downfield thrower. Again, we see that every time he's in the Super Bowl. He's got one-on-one coverage. He finds it. He's like, I'm going to take that one downfield. He's got very good pinpoint accuracy. You see that on those throws. Mm-hmm. Against the blitz, he was very good, very efficient. He was able to get the ball out a little bit quickly. He has a tendency to hold the football for what he wants. And I think because of his not necessarily inability to read defensive shifts, they don't do a ton in terms of play action where he turns his back from the defense because it's hard. It is. Yeah. You don't see a lot of quarterbacks in today's game turn their back from the defense because they want to see what happens. But shifts on the back end will get you from time to time. But I think that he identified those spots underneath, around, again, outside the numbers. And when he's hot, he was able to do that. He does hold the football a lot. Last season, among all quarterbacks in time to throw, he was second only to Lamar Jackson. This is where the number was. 3.13 seconds on average. Now, is that because of Jalen Hurts a little bit? Absolutely is. It's also because he had time to sit back there and just be like, hey, guys, I'm going to pull up a chair. I'm going to grab a lemonade. We're going to sit here, wait for A.J. Brown to get open, for Devontae Smith to get open, and we're going to find the guy open. And that's what you do. And that's totally okay. It's executing the offense that is designed around you. I do think having the offense around him is great. A lot of quarterbacks can succeed like that. But getting the consistency in the pocket, which is the number one thing right here, with an offensive line as good as he has, Sometimes you see flashes, whether it's Jordan Mailata still holding his guy strong, but maybe an inside flash from a defensive player. All of a sudden, Jalen is just out of the pocket. He's getting out to his right and he's looking. He needs to learn to stay a little bit closer in the pocket. I think what we talked about, his improved pocket presence was more of stepping up in the pocket. You saw a lot more ability this year where he was willing to step up into the pocket. But if he sees out of his peripherals pressure, that's where he gets the problem, is where he's got to move out to his right in front, or where he can kind of see it directly. He's willing to move up and through it. But I think sometimes he can get a little skittish from one side or the other. But if he's got pressure coming both sides or to him, he's better at managing it. And then just those flashes that you see, sometimes he flushes himself out of the pocket. And a lot of times that's why people are getting up in arms about, well, why is this Lane Johnson not giving up a sack here? Why is he not giving up a sack here? Well, that's unfortunately because Jalen Hurts is putting himself into situations where he's getting sacked. So we have to mitigate some of those things. And unfortunately, again, I think that he's a better quarterback than he played last year during the regular season. And because the offense took some of that away, he wasn't the focal point. I want to see him granted, we've already seen it. I'll say it. We've seen Jalen Hurts be the focal point of an offense for the Eagles in terms of being a distributor. It wasn't the best offense that it was. It was inefficient, and they couldn't really generate a lot of yards after catch. It was him having to throw the football downfield into one-on-one situations and in a lot of tight windows. He's comfortable attacking tight windows. He's got no problem doing that. I want to see him distribute, get through reads faster, more efficient, not hang up on receivers. I understand you got A.J. Brown and you got Dallas Goedert and you have Devontae Smith. You have Saquon Barkley out of the backfield, man. You got Riches, and you can just kind of wait for those guys. Yeah, you can wait for those guys to get open. But realistically, when it comes to pure quarterbacking, he's behind the 8 ball from going through his reads and managing the pocket precisely enough to consistently win there. I think that he's gotten better, no doubt about it. But I think that the offense around him creates better advantageous situations for him to execute, and he's taken advantage of that. I'm not trying to dog him. Yeah. I'm not. I think he's a very good quarterback. And again, that's why I preface this by saying he's one of the best big game quarterbacks in the NFL. He is. But you're judged on more than just how you play in the postseason. And I know that we talk about pure quarterbacking, and that's how we get to these conversations. It's deeper than, well, how many Super Bowls do you have? And that's why you have to have a conversation in the middle of how you perform in the regular season and how you perform in the postseason. We can't just say, oh, well, all that matters is the postseason, when everyone's like, yeah, how many rings do you got? That's not really how we judge play and the tape and the film. So getting through all of that and parsing through Jalen Hurts' film, there are some really good bright spots. Again, he's got a very good offensive line. We've seen what it looks like when he's under pressure, when he can't get to his reads in time. But overall, I'm very impressed with what Jalen Hurts has done to this point after honestly getting benched for Tua in college. He's done nothing but grow every single year.
Yeah. I know, and that's the workman mentality that he has, right? Like, and I remember after being benched, like he just went back to the drawing board. He really honed in on his mechanics, and because he was mechanically as a freshman and as a young player at Alabama, he was not a sound mechanical thrower. So he really improved his mechanics. Yeah. He improved just be able to sit in the pocket and throw, because when you're a running threat, any quarterback I've ever talked to that was a dude with their quarterback, you know what I mean? I'll tell them all the same thing. Like, make the defense, make your rushing ability secondary to your passing ability. Because they're the first thing on the scouting report is going to be keep them in the pocket. Don't let them break contain. Different things like, because they fear when they fear your athleticism and rushing ability more they fear your passing, it's easier to contain that than contain the passing aspect. So once you develop as a passer, now you're rushing. That's why we see the version of Jalen Hurts we see now. He's evolved as a passer to where now the rushing ability for defenses, they're like, okay, you got A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert. Yeah, it's secondary. Devonta Smith, we can't let him dice us up to these guys. So man-to-man coverage, two high safeties, whatever. And then it's like, oh crap, we forgot he's an athletic quarterback, because now he's evolved as that passer, and you want to just consistently see it too. And I think for him, he just has that mentality to keep working, and he's a guy that even with 2 Super Bowl runs, 1 Super Bowl ring, and everything, I was he Super Bowl MVP and whatnot. I don't
Yep.
foresee him being a guy that's going to be resting on his laurels. Like I think he's going to work his butt off all off season, get in the training camp, try to be in the not the best shape of his life. I'm not worried about what shape he's going to be in. This is a guy that hits the weight room. He's going to be fine in that regard. But coming in and trying to play the best play the best ball that he's played in seek of, you know what? We watch Pat Mahomes, we watch Tom Brady, we watch these guys create dynasties. Pat Mahomes has been the Tom Brady since Tom Brady's retired in terms of keeping everybody else from winning up until this past Super Bowl. So what you don't want to do is be a cliff note on Patrick Mahomes' legacy, like a Nick Foles or Eli Manning. And so Eli has 2 of them against Tom, so it's not as much of a cliff note. But the fact that his career, his regular season career was not great. He was never deemed a top tier quarterback in the league while he was in the league because of those, because his statistics. When you talk about big game quarterback, that was Eli Manning.
Yeah.
He got to the playoffs, he's gonna cook. In the regular season, can you get us to the playoffs, Eli? That's the question. Can you cook enough in the regular season to get us there? And I think that's the thing for Hurts is that I think his goal now is to not be the cliff note, not to be the exception. You know what I mean? Patrick Mahomes has been dominant. He's doing all the things he's done. Well, that 1 year, Jalen Hurts got him. No, you want to now turn it into Jalen Hurts got 3 of those things. You know what I mean? And he was not just a cliff note. If Pat Mahomes is Superman, he was part of the kryptonite. That's what you want to do going forward. But then let's transition to a guy that came on the scene and took a team drafting, 2nd overall in the draft?
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy? This is the 2nd time we've seen this, back to back. That number 2 overall pick, it was cursed for a while, Dan. Everybody's like, I don't want to go number 2. I don't want a quarterback at 2. C.J. Stroud came in, 2nd overall pick, leads the Houston Texans to back-to-back playoff appearances, right? In his first 2 years in the league. Jayden Daniels, JD5, comes in and leads the Washington Commanders and says, you know what, guys? We have a date with the postseason. We're going to the playoffs. On the season last year, 480 attempts, 3,568 passing yards, 25 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions, a passer rating of 100, completion percentage of 69%, nearly 70%, completing nearly 70% of his passes. This young man, the EPA was plus 78.4 EPA per dropback, plus 0.13. But just like Hurts, rushing ability, 148 attempts, 891 yards rushing, 6 rushing touchdowns on the season, 28 runs plus 10 yards. NFL Pro has him clocked at 15 plus miles per hour, 85 times. And he exceeded 20 miles per hour on 3 of his runs. This is a high octane athlete. And I remember when he transferred from Arizona State to LSU, I was excited about it. My co-host Keith, who's an LSU alum, over on Locked On NFL Draft podcast, he was like, man, DP, I don't know if he's going to be able to last. He's a little thin, wiry frame. I don't know if he's going to last in the SEC. Keith is a SEC homer a little bit, right? So he's like, I don't know if he's going to last in the SEC, right? And then JD5 has a solid first year with LSU. Then coming into that last year, right? And I remember we did a preview or whatever, and I was like, I picked LSU to win the SEC. Now, if their defense played any level of competent football, they would have won the SEC because their offense was nearly unstoppable. JD5, Brian Thomas Jr., and you got Mason Taylor, who's now with the Jets, Jason Taylor, Hall of Fame edge rusher son, and of course Malik Neighbors. And one of the things that me and you both talked about JD5 coming into that draft, and we loved his game. We loved the accuracy, the ball placement, the ability to no one would ever question and say, he has a Mahomes, Josh Allen-esque arm. But it's more so his ability to get the ball out and accurately down the field. That deep ball accuracy and placement is some of the best in the league. And I said that he was the best pure quarterback in the 2024 NFL draft class. I know Bo Nix had a good year. We saw flashes from Drake May. Caleb was in a very tumultuous situation in Chicago. Go figure. Chicago's really known for that. But yeah, like JD5 for me coming out of LSU, and for some numbers here. Last year, they had 46 attempts, 16 completions on deep throws, 20-plus air yards, 659 passing yards, 7 passing touchdowns, a passer rating of 104.6, average per attempt around 14 yards per attempt and everything. Completion percentage over expectation plus 1%. EPA plus 33.6, EPA per dropback plus 0.73. His accuracy down the field, his ability to throw with touch, timing, and anticipation on those throws are second to none. He gets it out early, and he puts it out in front. And not only out in front, he puts it where his receivers can make plays on the ball. That's the type of stuff that you want from your quarterback, man. So his ability to stand in the pocket, especially with the running game and different things like that. I'll talk about when I get numbers, right? You want to load the box up, different things like that. I want to be able to push the ball down the field. And even though he never had that elite arm, he has elite ball placement and accuracy down the field to really be able to take advantage of those type of throws. Outstanding rookie season from him. And then I just don't want what we saw from Stroud. Right now, they did differently. They went and got Laramie Tunsil, who was coming off a little bit of a down year, in my opinion, with the Houston Texans at left tackle.
Yeah.
He didn't play the same level of ball. They went and got him. They drafted Josh Carnley first round and everything. Drafted Ja'Cory, a running back out of Arizona who I think was academically ineligible after the first game or some weird NCAA rule, and he couldn't play no more for the rest of the season. So they got him, and I think that he's probably going to be the future of that run game, to be completely honest. I don't really like Brian Robinson Jr. I don't like his fit with JD5 in that offense as a runner. I think he needs to be more traditional downhill, just square the shoulders and get north and south, where they do a lot of zone read stuff, things like that, where you don't know if you're going to get the ball. You got to be prepared for it, but you don't know. He might pull it, take it, and go get 15, 20 himself. So they've done a good job of surrounding him with weapons, getting Deebo Samuel. They got to figure out the Terry McLaurin situation. I don't think they've paid him yet. They got to get that taken care of if they haven't already. So, yeah, man, what did you see that you really appreciated from JD5 last year?
It was what everyone thought he couldn't do. Remember, the one thing no one thought he could do coming out of college was throw the ball over the middle of the field. It was a big talking point, and it was because he wasn't asked to do it. That it didn't have anything to do with him turning down throws. I mean, at times, sure, everyone turns down throws from time to time going through his progressions and stuff. But again, we talk about the intermediate air yards. Typically, intermediate throws are going over the middle of the field. 98 attempts, 60 completions, nearly 1,000 yards with 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. And that's a 61% completion percentage for a guy who, again, doesn't throw the ball over the middle of the field. It wasn't just scheme stuff, right? It wasn't just because he was in an offense that was advantageous. And I will say, Cliff Kingsbury, coming back from his whole crazy craptastic situation from the Cardinals going to, USC and now back into the NFL last year, he was great. He did a great job being an offensive coordinator. Sometimes you're just a coordinator, and that's perfectly okay. You don't need to be a head coach, and we know he's a very good offensive coordinator. We saw that last year, creating the run game with a below-average skill offensive line. Let's be very honest. There were some bright spots. I mean, Brandon Coleman out of TCU started out pretty decent at left tackle, got pretty rough there for a little bit, and even former Chiefs players Andrew Wiley, Nick Allegretti are good starters in the NFL. They're not like top tier talent players, but overall, you get an injury to one of your best guards, one of the best guards in the NFL, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I forget his name. He played tackle, Sammy Cosmi. Sam Cosmi, yeah, he's one of the best guards in the NFL, and he gets hurt. So you have to give Jayden Daniels a lot of credit for dealing with I would say an average to below average offensive line and doing what he was able to do. Also, working with in structure, out of structure. We know he does all those things well. defensive reading is going to come with time, right? You're going to see a lot of crazy stuff that you don't see a lot of in the NFL, in college, because they don't have the capacity to teach those guys that. They don't want to teach them that. They want the game to be a little bit different. So those pre-snap pressures, right, and making sure that you can see what's going to happen post-snap. It's not really going to be something that happens right away. Some of those quarterbacks come in. I think C.J. Stroud was one of the exceptions you saw. He kind of understood a lot to that deep level. Okay, this defense is shifting. I can make an adjustment there. And even as experienced as Jayden Daniels was coming out, playing at Arizona State, going to LSU, he still had basically 2 years of playing against what I would call elite level college talent, right? I'm not trying to dog Arizona State, what they did back there. But we know there are different levels to college football and the talent level. So you have those things. But again, the appreciation that I got for watching Jayden Daniels was his willingness to, as the season got along, to be better in the pocket, to make better decisions inside the pocket, to move with it, not always have to get out and make things happen with your legs, but stay in there and deliver the ball over the middle of the field. Those are the top tier things that top 10 NFL caliber quarterbacks do on a regular basis. And then we get to the point where, everyone's like, he's just throwing the ball down the field because there's a lot of space there and defenses are going to put a top on him and it's going to be over. Well, if anybody could have caught the football in the playoff game against the Eagles and not fumbled it away every single time, or maybe we're talking about a little bit of a different outcome. Maybe they still lose the game, but it's far more competitive. And even though all those things happened in the second half of that game, Jayden Daniels was doing everything you want from him. He wasn't forcing the football. He was making good decisions from the pocket. They wanted him to stay in the pocket and deliver it underneath into the intermediate parts of the field and try to exploit them that way. He did that. He was executing. So there is a huge amount of ceiling for Jayden Daniels as what he is now. Obviously, the second year is going to be the tell-all for what he can actually be, because that's where defenses have a full year, full offseason to really study you and understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. And changing pre-snap, changing post-snap, we're going to see how they adjust to him. But again, if you consistently force quarterbacks to play from the pocket that want to get out and run, you're going to find that they throw the football either too early, or they hold on to it too long, or they make poor decisions. If he can prevent himself from doing that, it's going to be very, very hard to defend Jayden Daniels. I was just really, really impressed with what he did as a rookie for, again, a lot of people not really expecting him to come and throw over the middle of the field. And I know I haven't talked about some of the negatives. He runs into pressure. He was sacked 47 times last time. I would say more than half of them, even though the offensive line wasn't very good, was because he was just running right into it. Okay, he wants to go and make things happen. He wants to be able to do that, and I get that from a young perspective. With the athleticism that he has and the gifts, you are still a very wiry dude. This is the NFL. Protect yourself, okay? Get down. Learn to slide. Stop this Looney Tune nonsense where you're just exploding when you get hit. Like, we got to stop that stuff.
No, it's crazy, Dan, because one of the other things that I saw that I wanted to see him improve on is he has a tendency where post snap he's expecting what he saw pre-snap. So like some of his interceptions, I was watching where he does a good job. Like I love the fact that he uses his eyes to move defenders and manipulate and look off the defense and things like that. But instead of just looking it off and then coming back and assessing before you throw, he'll look off and just expect that his guy is open. And he threw multiple interceptions, if I remember correctly, when I was watching the film, where it's like he looks left or looks right, comes back to the throw, and just rips it. Instead of quickly processing, okay, is he open? Is there another defender that's leaked down or shifted down or sunk down into the area that I need to be weary about? And do I hold it, pump it, whatever, and then do I like just completely just bail out and just figure it out? Instead of throwing the ball, like, and he threw interceptions that way. He threw passes that were turnover-worthy throws that way. I want to see him get better with that. And then, of course, just handling pressure. Sometimes he'll drift back in the pocket, throw off his back foot, different things like that. Like, no, just get better identifying the pre-snap pressures. And because one thing that, guys, pay attention to this in the NFL. It may not happen to Josh Allen. We haven't gotten to him yet, so I haven't watched his film yet. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Jayden Daniels. 3 quarterbacks I know for a fact deal with that cat or nickel blitz. That's a way to get to an athletic quarterback. Because where are they typically escaping?
Yeah.
On the outside, on the perimeter. So when you come out, line up in man, don't tip your cap or tip your hand. They think it's just pure man, and that nickel corner comes screeching off the edge. Yes, like when they come firing off, the quarterback typically doesn't have that guy even in the play because they're thinking he's out in coverage. And I've watched defenses navigate and trend in that direction over the last couple years with these high-octane athletic quarterbacks. If you are one of those guys that are a true dynamic run threat, they're sending that nickel at some point in the game.
Yeah.
Probably preferably on those third downs where they want to send and catch you off guard. And he got sacked off of that a couple times too. Not identifying it, not seeing it. Again, they do disguise it well, but being able to that's what I love about Cam Ward coming out of Miami. Cam Ward has that Aaron Rodgers where strong cadence, give you the fake snap count. Okay, I see you. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now I know where you're trying to light me up from. I got you. Yeah, I got you. Like now I can pivot off of that, make a quick check, slide protection, things like that. That's where I think that's the next part of the evolution of Jayden Daniels. But Dan, you talking about evolution and this NFC East is a really good division for quarterbacks outside of whatever's going on in New York. You know what I mean? They're towards the bottom. You know what I mean? But with JD5 and Jalen Hurts and our guy, man, you know, Mr. Underrated. That's, you know, if Russell Wilson is Mr. Unlimited, Dak Prescott is Mr. Underrated. I love Dak Prescott's game, Dan, and I feel like this is a guy. And I'm going to say this, you know, people can feel how they want to feel about Dak. If Dak Prescott was not a Dallas Cowboy, he would have a much bigger fan base. Like, he would have a much bigger fan club. People will feel a whole different way about him. 6'2", 240 pounds, a quarterback that we know throughout his career. Like, he's thrown for over 3,800 yards multiple times in his career. You know, he's probably, when he plays a full season, typically he's going to give you anywhere from 25 to almost 40 passing touchdowns, right? And he's battled injuries in his, you know, over the last, 4 or 5 years of his career, you know what I mean? 2020, he only played 5 games. 2022, he played 12. And in 2024, he played 8, right? And then, you know, this past season, in those 8 games, was it statistically great? No, not really. 1,978 passing yards, 11 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Yards per attempt was at 6.9, so basically 7 yards per attempt, which is kind of hovering around league average for those who don't know. And then when you have a passer rating of 86, EPA was negative 33.7. He was pressured 93 times, 21 sacks. The issue that I have when it comes down to the narrative that surrounds Dak Prescott is Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. Arm talent, accuracy, ball placement for the most part. A guy that can drill tight window throws, kill you up the seam. He's a seamstress as a quarterback. He's a seamstress. The problem is he has Jerry Jones as a mouthpiece of this team and that will go out here and say we're all in every single offseason, and his moves don't actually indicate that he's all in on anything besides being mediocre. And it's like, okay, when you got me and Keith have talked about this. The Dallas Cowboys over the last 7-8 years, how many of their rosters were actually Super Bowl caliber winning rosters? They didn't have many. They really have not had many of those, especially in the prime peak version of Dak Prescott. You get CeeDee Lamb. You have Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott. You have a triplet around your quarterback. Then because of some personal things with Amari Cooper, you trade him for a 5th-round pick. Idiotic, right? You leave just a CeeDee Lamb and different things like that. But I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I know Eagles fans and Commanders fans and Giants fans probably don't want to hear it. But I get off it just drives me nuts at how Dak takes so much flack because of the guy calling the shots that he has no control over anything from roster man. Dak doesn't control these things. But let's jump into this scouting report on Dak Prescott. Drive throws, middle of the field, up the seams. He rips them. He gets them there. He puts them where they need to be. When we talked about it when we mentioned Tom Brady last segment, last topic, those throws to Rob Gronkowski. right? Like that's why when people always used to say Tom Brady didn't have arm talent, I'm like, that's a lie. To be able to drive the ball, you need arm talent. Like you got to have a good arm to fire those seam shots and those hole shots, especially the ones between cover two. The Dak Prescott does that very well. He navigates the pocket. He's improved his ability to move and shuffle in the pocket and find those throwing lanes and find those weak points of the defensive rush and everything. Pre-snap coverage and recognition. I feel this is a guy that has full control of their offense when he comes to the line of scrimmage, Dan, and his ability to read and react to everything he sees. Pre-snap, getting them in the right plays and the right protections, making the right checks to his receivers to shift the route concepts and how, okay, it looks like this is cover three. Yeah, no, let's go to a cover three beater. Or this man, let's go to mesh concept. Calling, just changing up what's called at the line of scrimmage. And he's been, he's had multiple OCs, over his career, and he still plays good ball. You want to see consistent ball placement for him. Sometimes it does get a little. There's peaks and valleys with it with Dan. I mean with Dak, yeah. Dan, and everything. He is somebody that kind of predetermines some of his reads and will lock into them at times. And everything, it's a little stubborn there, and then I feel like he gets baited into turnovers at times, where it's like they run trap coverages, different things of that nature. You think that linebacker's sitting, but actually he's waiting for that deep in cut, and he's rolling right back and underneath it to pick it off. I think those are the things that you would like to see Dak improve on. But I think for me, man, if he's at the end of the day, I go back to the simple fact of Jerry Jones put so much pressure on Dak. And Dak plays with that pressure, unfortunately. Because at the end of the day, Jerry's not on the field, but he's writing checks, even though he's a billionaire or whatever he is. He's a billionaire, rich dude. And he can cash any check. He can't cash the checks when the whistle blows. And when you're writing checks that fans expect to be cashed, it's on Dak Prescott and the rest of that team. Now they get George Pickens coming in. Got CeeDee Lamb. They have Jonathan Mingo. So that should be a nice little trio. Jalen Tolbert's still there. They got Ferg at tight end, right? They brought in the Javonte Williams, and they drafted Phil Maffa, and I'm blanking on the running back from Texas named the speedy kid.
Jayden Blue.
Yeah, Jayden Blue. The running back room has talent now. Improved the offensive line, and everything. So very much so looking forward to seeing a healthy Dak Prescott in the Cowboys uniform this year.
Yeah, every time he's healthy, it's good. He just plays well when he's healthy, and obviously you can say that about anybody. But overall, Dak, when you watch a game of Dak Prescott, he runs every offense you could dream of. Shotgun, under center, pure dropbacks from under center. How often do you see quarterbacks do 7-step drops from under center nowadays? You don't see it, but Dak Prescott can not only execute it, but he does it well. He's got good timing, mechanics within structure, out of structure. I think we've seen over time now the ability to get outside the pocket, make guys miss and extend plays has gotten a little bit elongated. It's not the fastest anymore. He does take a little bit more time to do so, which you'd love to see him get back. But unfortunately, like I said, since 2020, he's been nothing but dealing with injuries here and there. He hasn't really played fully healthy multiple seasons in a row for a time now. So it's hard to say he's going to get back to doing those things. But in terms of winning within the pocket, it's all there. He's just frustrating with, like you said, the being baited into throws over the middle of the field where linebackers are like, yeah, I know you want to throw it to the tight end. I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait. And then he throws it. He wants it so bad sometimes. And that is him and it's pressure, right? He knows that the defense is opportunistic. It's not a great defense. The offensive line last year specifically wasn't the best it's been in a long time either. You've had, retirements, injuries, things happening with the transition of their offensive line too. So the ability to do everything that he does from a pre-snap, post-snap, identifying process is all there, but the execution is lacking at times for him, specifically post-snap. You do see him change plays here. He'll get to a run. He'll check into this play here. He knows what he's doing to be able to get to different plays, and we know that the connection between him and CeeDee Lamb is great. Still, accuracy downfield is okay. You do see it start to die a little bit. I think he's starting to get to those later parts where he needs to be a little more preemptive in throwing down the field, where if he finds it initially, get it there. Do it now. But I'm from a purely quarterbacking perspective, this guy can do everything. He can deliver the football to every part of the field you want. He sees the blitz well. He doesn't want to turn the football over in the short part. When he holds the football, that's where you start to see him get to those ghosts or the seam balls that he just never says no to, which he should say no to every now and then. Specifically, locking into Ferguson is one of my big gripes with him, is because he loves his tight ends. He does. We know he came up with Jason Witten. He's wanted tight ends, right? He wants those guys. So Ferguson's fine. I don't think he's an elite tight end by any stretch, but Dalton Schultz was a very trusted player for him too. So he wants that connection with the tight end, and sometimes it gets the better of him, and he'll make throws that he shouldn't make. So I really appreciate the mind, the ability. I really want to drive home how important and impressive it is that a quarterback in 2025 can execute every type of offense that you want him to. Any OC that comes in, he can execute the offense. He can run it, he can drive it, and have full command of it. That's very unique in today's NFL. So from that, I mean, that perspective, top down, the tools are all there mechanically. Good footwork in the pocket. He's got pretty good pocket presence still for his time too. He hasn't had to deal with a ton of pressure to the extent he had to last year. So I think that was a little bit more of a wake-up call for him. And you saw that start to, okay, I got to speed up my process here a little bit. But I mean, I don't want to get on a soapbox about it either, but watching him have to go through what he's had to go through the Dallas Cowboys is frustrating. And unfortunately for Dak, he hasn't been a very good big game quarterback either. Yeah. He hasn't. So we talk about with Jalen Hurts, how, you can be great in the postseason. What do you do for me in the regular season? Dak's great in the regular season. He's not very good in the postseason. He's just not. So it's hard for me to like dog him in that regard, just like it's hard for me to dog any of these guys. But when it comes to big games, Dak feels the pressure more than I think any other quarterback in the NFL, which sucks. It sucks. It sucks a lot. But I mean, tools, executing offenses, he's got it all.
And to that pressure point, as we get ready to close, it's the some fact of like it goes back to that star on the helmet, right? Like every year, this fan base is we them boys. It's our year, different things like that. And listen, every fan base feels like, for the most part, even the ones who, I mean, Carolina Panther fans feel like, we're going from worst to first this year. Pump the brakes, right? Like every fan base feels like that when it's still 0-0 in the win-loss columns in July. Like I'm all for it. Be a fan, love your team, believe in it, be realistic, survey your roster, find the weak spots. Like, okay, can this be an Achilles heel? Like different things like that. Like, but be a fan at the same time. So I get Dallas Cowboys fans feeling that way, but then when you compound that with the fact of, we have these Super Bowls that are like ages ago, and you got Jerry Jones saying the things he says and having a radio show, and what owner needs a radio show? Like it's so many things that so much, again, there are checks written for the Dallas Cowboys players to cash that their signature, they didn't grab the pen. It's not their checkbook to be cashing, right? It's not in their name, but we have people and we have an owner that heaps so much pressure on them that it's like, hey, now it's on you guys, right? It's on you guys to go do it. And it's like, when you don't do it, then it's the gaslighting of, do we have the right quarterback? I guarantee you, if Dak Prescott was playing for the Minnesota, we just watched Sam Darnold have a career year in Minnesota where the media market, the fan, the expectations, everything is lower, right? You put Sam Darnold with the Cowboys, oh, yeah, we're seeing probably Jets version of Sam Darnold again because the pressure is so much, man. So, like I said, shout out to Dak Prescott. Love his game. Love what he's done over his career. Hopefully he can stay healthy and continue and get back to playing high-level football. And hopefully this team has done enough with Tyler Booker, the running backs we listed, George Pickens and everything, get the defense going. They brought in the cornerback at the ECU, Siobhan Revel, who's coming off of the ACL. You get Trayvon Diggs back eventually. Hopefully this team can get healthy and play high-level football again. And then really, because to me, it's like basketball. Everybody said the NBA is better when the Knicks are good, when the Pistons are good, when this old-school team that was one of the thoroughbreds were good. The NFL, to me, is better when the Cowboys are winning games and they're going into the postseason. I've always felt like from just a watchability standpoint, sustainable. It's just better when the Cowboys are good because they're one of the storied franchises. The Cowboys, the Steelers, like
Yeah.
those storied franchises, man. Like, yeah, when the Patriots get back to their to playing great ball and 10-win seasons with Drake May, it's going to feel really good when they get back on the horse, right, and get back out there. So shout out to all these teams, man. Shout out to the NFC East quarterbacks, and we'll give a final ranking right real quick. At let me pull up the rankings because I remember you texted it to me and I had it in my notes, but then no, I didn't pull up my notes on the computer here. So at the bottom, it is whoever's the quarterback for the Giants. That's the last
Yes.
leg of this race. You know what I mean? Then we got Jalen Hurts, yes, the Super Bowl champion, MVP, Jalen Hurts. We got JD5, Jayden Daniels at QB2, and then we have Dak Prescott at QB1. I truly believe at the end of the day, situations matter. If Dak Prescott's in Philadelphia, healthy, I still think they win the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? I still think they win the Super Bowl. So that's it. Like I said, Dak Prescott, JD5, Jalen Hurts, and whoever's the starting quarterback for the New York Giants.
Yeah. I also want to say really quickly that these three quarterbacks are probably top 6 in the NFC. Like they're probably top 6 in the NFC. So I understand the Eagles fans are going to feel slighted, and that's perfectly okay. I understand it, and you guys, you can always bring your comments to me. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about his game. We'll talk about Jayden Daniels and why I have him better. And again, these are going to change next year. If Jayden Daniels has a worse year because defenses have changed and he hasn't gotten better, we'll revisit. We'll go back to the tape. These are evolving things. Quarterback play, much like everything else, changes year after year. Last year, Jalen Hurts was asked to be the backup to Saquon Barkley. In essence, he basically was.
Just manage the game.
So maybe
don't
this
make
year,
the back-breaking mistakes.
Yeah.
He was a high-end game manager
Exactly.
that could win you a game when you needed him to win a game. He just wasn't asked to win many games. That's really all it is, guys. Like, Jayden Daniels and some of these other quarterbacks are asked to carry their teams. Jalen Hurts wasn't, and I think that stuff factors in to our rankings. But we still love Jalen.
Agreed.
We still love him, guys. But
Absolutely.
that's the show here. Again, thank you for tuning in to the Scouting Room NFL podcast with Dame and Dan. I'm Dame, and that's Dan. Guys, coming up next, we are going to get into the NFC West. Let's talk about those quarterbacks. That's a very interesting division. Kyler, Sam Darnold now. Purdy's got paid. Matthew Stafford. Yeah, we're going to talk about those guys on the next episode of the NFL Scouting Podcast. We're going to talk about them, break them down, and rank them. But again, go ahead and like, subscribe, comment on YouTube, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the NFL Scouting Podcast with Dame and Dan. I'm Dame, and that's Dan.